Hey, it's Alan, and today I want to share a special holiday episode that I think you might like. It comes from our friends over at Haunted Canada, and it takes place just over an hour's drive north of Toronto in the quaint and picturesque town of Georgina, Ontario, where whispers echo through the halls of the Briars Resort and Spa, and not every footstep belongs to the living. And during the holidays, the spirits feel even more festive. If you like what you hear, make sure you search and follow Haunted Canada wherever you're listening to right now. And happy holidays.
You're sitting in the library of a historic old manor about to tuck into a book. A hot tea cools beside you as you watch snow falling out the window across the 200-acre property on the south shore of Lake Simcoe. This replenishing weekend is a quick getaway, a break from the hustle and bustle of the big city and holiday planning. Christmas is just around the corner, and this is an early present. Antiques, exposed brick, high ceilings, and chandeliers, which make you feel like you've traveled back to an era of Victorian elegance and charm. It is the perfect setting because you're about to read the chapter of Wuthering Heights. By now, Catherine has been transformed into a refined lady under the influence of the Linton family, who accepts an invitation for a Christmas party. As you read alone in the library, you feel like you're right there in the middle of this, a dark and twisted take on the traditional, cozy image of Christmas. When suddenly, you smell an unfamiliar scent. You look up, and what you see is what many others have too.
So they've reported seeing what looked like people dressed in Victorian clothing. They've smelled perfume, rose water, lavender, things like that. And they felt touched in that particular room as well.
I'm Nadine Bailey, and this is Haunted Canada. Today, we're spending Christmas at the Briars Resort and Spa in Georgina, Ontario. The Briars Resort and Spa is located just over an hour's drive north of Toronto, in the quaint and picturesque town of Georgina, Ontario. The town itself is like something out of a Hallmark movie, with tree-lined streets and neighbors that wave at each other. Georgina is nestled on the shores of Lake Simcoe, one of the largest lakes in the province. Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation and the Anishinaabe First Nation have called the area home for centuries. European settlers began to arrive in the early 1800s, and Lieutenant Governor Sir Peregrine Maitland named the area the Township of Georgina in 1818 in honor of King George III. In October 1818, Silas Morton left Massachusetts to settle the township and became one of the area's founders, along with Captain James O'Brien Bowsher. His brother, Captain William Bowsher, had been a lieutenant in the Royal Navy. He served in the Peninsular War with the Gibraltar Flotilla in defense of Cadiz, Spain. The siege was defeated in 1812, and Bowsher was sent to Upper Canada to defend Britain's colony against the Americans. He was promoted to captain and put in charge of the naval depot at Turnkey Point on Lake Erie. When the armistice ended the War of 1812 was signed in 1815, Captain William Bowsher applied for a land grant while abroad. In 1818, he returned to Canada and lived with his brother, Captain James O'Brien Bowsher, in a log cabin while awaiting confirmation of the grant. His brother, James O'Brien Bowsher, had unsuccessfully attempted to get land in Upper Canada prior to 1818, but eventually got special permission from Britain and successfully petitioned the Executive Council of the time. Lieutenant Governor Peregrine Maitland granted Bowsher 1,200 acres. During this time, William Boucher married Amelia Jackson, daughter of a Toronto merchant, John Mills Jackson. Amy did not want to live in the forest, so she persuaded William to rejoin the Navy. He returned to service and left for England, then India, in 1822, and along the way, his wife, Amelia, died. Meanwhile, the land grant was sold to William's brother James, who in turn sold the point to Mr. Jackson, who named the area Jackson's Point. James used the proceeds of the sale to found the village of Sutton, Ontario, on the remaining land. William was abroad for about 20 years and described his travels as, quote, disappointed hopes in Bombay, end quote. However, during that time, he met his second wife, Laura, and along with their family, returned to Upper Canada in 1837 to construct a retirement residence in Jackson's Point. The grand home was completed in 1840. It was named the Briars, after a home in St. Helena, the remote British island in the South Atlantic Ocean where both he and Napoleon Bonaparte spent time. Like most Regency buildings, the location of the manor house was carefully selected to provide for maximum visual effect and to allow for picturesque views. The front entrance is set up along a large expanse of carefully manicured lawns and provides a view to the east, which passes over the towering trees along Hedge Road and fades into the waters of Lake Simcoe. With an area of land totaling more than 200 acres, the Briars was the home of William Boucher until his death in 1844. He was buried in the cemetery of St. George's Anglican Church in the community of Sybil Point. That same year, his widow returned to England, but the Briars was rented out by Mrs. Boucher to a number of arriving settlers. She later sold the property to Dr. Frank Sybil in 1879. The Sybils were the original settlers of the neighboring Sybil Point. They were one of the most influential families in Georgina Township and were responsible for constructing the area's first stone church, which is where William was buried. Dr. Sybil bought the property in two pieces. First, the east end, and then the main property, including the barn and other outbuildings. Two wings were added to the main building in 1880, as was a coach house and a brick stable. The Peacock House was added in 1885 to house Dr. Sybil's collection of peacocks. It is a unique two-story, 8-sided brick building situated amidst the well-manicured lawns and gardens. It is approached on its north side by a private roadway, and it is the only building of its kind in Ontario. Another unique addition to the Briars was the tower, which rises above the surrounding buildings. It has a narrow shaft base and an upper floor that overhangs with multiple windows. It is the best place to watch the foliage change or to witness the glorious sunsets, as it offers panoramic views of the lake and the grounds. When Dr. Frank Sybil died in 1904, he left the property to William Boucher's daughter, Bessie, who attempted to carry on the farm but was advised by her bank manager to rent it out. Bessie used the funds to build several cottages on the lakeshore for tourists. After her death, the property was inherited by her nephew, Jack Sybil, who continued to farm the property and use the manor house for his business. The farm was later turned into a golf course in 1922, and several more cottages were added along the shore. It became a resort in 1942 called the Briars Community Club, later changing its name in 1945 to the Briars Country Club. The barn on the property was turned into the Red Barn Theatre in 1949. In 1963, the property changed its name to the Briars Inn and Country Club, which it has remained. It was a family-run business for 139 years, until 2017, and today it exists as one of Ontario's oldest recreational resort facilities. And during all this time, staff and guests have had many strange encounters. Linda Carino is the founder and director of the Georgina Paranormal Society.
I had my very first ghostly experiences when I was about, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years old, up at the family cottage in the Laurentians. My grandfather actually built the cottage, and living in Montreal, it wasn't too far away from home, about 45 minutes or so. But we loved it up there. It was a gorgeous home, and my bedroom was my little safe haven where I used to play dolls and Barbies and things like that. And when my parents would put me to sleep at night at the cottage, I would see what I described to them as people wearing funny hats with dents in them. And they would sort of come in and out of my field of vision, and they would make faces, or they would, smile at me. So I never felt intimidated or scared by them. They were just people. So I would mention this to my parents, and my parents were very encouraging. They would say, "Really? So tell me more." And I would, and of course, they would say, "Well, that's really interesting." Never would they say ghosts are they're not real, or ghosts don't exist, or anything. So one day, while we were watching television, we were watching a cartoon, and it was Dudley Do-Right, the Mountie. And of course, I pointed to the TV, and I said to my dad, "That's the hat, that dented hat." And so they both looked at each other. My parents kind of did one of those glances. And I will never forget that, because they told me that my grandfather had built the cottage over an old Mountie station. So it made total sense.
She has a deep connection to the Briars because she worked there in 2014. Her office was in the basement near the pool and billiards room, and her route to work took her through the back door and through a series of stairways and little entrances.
Every single day that I worked there, there was a woman who would poke her head around the corner, and she had dark hair, long dark hair, and she was, as far as I could tell, very pretty. I could see part of her collar when she poked her head around, so it was quite a large collar, very white, but she had dark hair, and she would poke her head around the corner. And the first time it happened, I thought it was a real person. So of course I would say, "Hello," and nothing would happen. And then eventually, I tuned in, and I would get up from my desk and walk around and look in the corridor, and of course there'd be nobody there. So it got to be a real little thing for me. Every day I'd say hello to the lady. And I remember calling her Emily, just thinking, well, she looked like an Emily. So I'd say, "Hey, Emily. Good morning, Emily. You want some coffee?" But she would poke her head around the corner every single day. And that was kind of interesting. I thought, okay, so I'm not alone.
This was Linda's introduction to the ghosts of the Briars, because Emily wasn't the only spirit she encountered.
So every time I would leave my office and walk to the washroom, I had to pass the billiard room. And there was always, I would say at least once a week, usually on a Friday, I would see this gentleman standing in the billiard room. And sometimes I would see him dressed in a black suit, and he was always looking to the right. And I could never understand what he was looking at, but he was as solid as you or me. And I would see him, and I would just try and get his attention, never could get his attention, use the washroom, come back, and he'd be gone. But I'd also see another gentleman who would stand in exactly the same place, and he had a plaid jacket on, which was very interesting. But he was also looking in that general direction as well. And I knew that this gentleman was a ghost because he just dissolved in front of me.
Encountering ghosts and having paranormal experiences would scare many, but it only intrigued Linda more. Since she was in charge of payroll for staff, she heard first-hand accounts of what happened inside the Briars.
People from housekeeping would come down into the basement to talk to the HR lady and to say things like, okay, so my boss wants me to go into room 217, but like, there's no way that I'm going into room 217 because I went into room 217 and I cleaned it up and I made the bed and I did what I was supposed to do. I locked the door behind me. I got 2 maybe feet away from the door and thought, oh no, I forgot to put down those stupid glasses next to the sink, turned around, unlocked the door, went in, and the window was open and the bed was unmade. So when someone tells you stories like this and they say, I told my boss and she said, no, that's hogwash, forget it. No, you're going in there and I'm not going in there. I know you have to tell her that I'm not going to go in there and do that. Yeah, you start to really listen to what's going on. And I had to speak to a lot of the housekeeping people and say, listen, maybe you need to send 2 people in there to do the task because they're scared. And if something like that happens to someone, you pay attention, right?
Room 217 is infamous, and because of it, staff sometimes refuse to go into it.
So one of the first reports was this poor girl, and she was maybe, 19, 20. She came downstairs and said to me, okay, so I'm not cleaning room 217 because I cleaned it to the best of my ability and locked the door behind me and was about 3 feet away from the room when all of a sudden I realized I forgot to put the glasses next to the sink in the bathroom, turned around, unlocked it, and the bed was unmade and the window was open. And there was nobody in the room but me, not 10 seconds before. So I'm not going in there and I'm not cleaning that room and nobody can force me to do it. And you have to tell her I'm not going to do it. She was so upset. Unbelievable.
The things that happened there are well documented, and it is a sought-after room for thrill seekers hoping to have a paranormal experience with the ghost of a young woman who died after she was rejected.
Well, the story goes that there was a woman who was staying there with her lover, and she found out that he was not true to her. So she was jilted by this particular lover. So what she did was she was so distraught, and she was staying in room 217. They were staying in room 217. She was so distraught that she ran from the room, ran to the tower, and yes, there is a tower at the Briars, and she flung herself over the tower to her death. So of course, room 217 was the last room that she was in with her lover, and she was so upset with the lover. And rumor has it that he was follically challenged. So any gentleman who stays in that room who's either semi-bald or bald or anything like that gets bothered by the ghost of this woman. And there have been some people that have said her name was either Emily, which I think is interesting, or Emma, or Elizabeth, but nobody can really kind of, agree on what her name was.
Those who have encountered the spirit that inhabits 217 feel uneasy after their experience.
Well, people have reported that when they leave the room for any reason, if they're staying there, when they come back, things are moved around, and it's certainly not housekeeping at all. Usually the glasses are moved around, so there may be glasses on the table in the room and they're in a different location. The bed definitely is either unmade or rumpled in some strange way. Also, the reports are that the window is open when the window wasn't open when they left, or that when they're sitting in the room, the window may be closed, but the curtains flutter as if the window is open. So that's always interesting. Also, footfalls in the middle of the night, when people are staying there. They will hear footsteps in the room when there's absolutely nobody but them staying there. And also the temperature in the room will suddenly go very, very low. And that, as we know, is always indicative of ghostly apparitions of some kind, because being energy, right, they feed on the ambient heat in the room. And of course, that lowers the temperature of the room.
The resort leans into its reputation as a haunted destination by offering a chilling overnight package that includes a stay, a guided history tour, a ghost investigation, and a one-night accommodation in room 217. Linda said that those brave enough to stay the night have shared their experiences with her.
Recently, someone wrote to us. She was staying in the room, and she and her husband were in bed reading, and all of a sudden they heard a noise from the bathroom. And when she got up to go and see what it was, her lipstick had basically jumped from her lipstick case and was at the other end of the bathroom. So there's no way physically that this could have happened, because her case was pushed against the wall and the lipstick really jumped out by itself. And she said, well, okay, so that room is definitely haunted.
Although room 217 is the most well-known location for supernatural encounters, guests and staff both know that at the Briars, ghosts are abound and waiting to greet you when you walk through the doors.
The front lobby is an interesting place. It's so beautiful. It's wood. It's just so, it's rich looking. It looks like your old time hotel, something from a fairy tale, something you would think that, Charles Dickens might stroll into a lobby somewhere. It's absolutely beautiful. Well, first of all, it has a big fireplace, and normally it has these nice cushy old chairs so people can read. There are bookshelves filled with books, so you can help yourself and pick a really great book to read and just settle in. But many times people have reported that they've seen interesting things in that particular room. So they've reported seeing what looked like people dressed in Victorian clothing. They've smelled perfume, rose water, lavender, things like that. And they felt touched in that particular room as well. We were just doing an event there. We had a display, and my assistant actually told me that she felt a hand on her shoulder while we were there doing the display. So it hasn't left, whatever it is. I'm sure there's a lot of residual spirits there as well as active spirits. But I think, there's that love and that attention, that old-timey comfort, I think, that the Briars has. I think it just remains there. It's filled with all kinds of great energy.
On other occasions, people have reported seeing out of the corner of their eye a figure and have heard a woman's voice, though others have said they've heard a man clearing his throat. Regardless of when guests visit, spirits will appear, but they seem to be more active during the festive season. Linda said that at Christmas, the manor house looks like it's right out of a storybook.
Christmas is a huge time of the year at the Briars. I mean, it is decorated so beautifully at Christmas. But at Christmas time, there are particular things that happen in the main dining room. And people have actually heard things, they've seen things. Servers have often, especially at Christmas when it's festive, They've heard tinging of glasses, kind of like, when people chink glasses together, doing a toast. They've heard clanking of silverware where absolutely nobody is in the dining room. But diners at Christmas time often feel that they're being brushed by sort of an unknown presence, that they feel particularly festive. And sometimes they're very emotional at Christmas time too. An older lady who wrote to us recently actually said that this past Christmas, when she was at the Briars, she was very emotional and felt very nostalgic while she was there. And she'd never had that feeling before, but she felt as if she was being followed through the dining room. It was quite an experience for her, an all-encompassing emotional experience, which I think is incredible. So you know that there's definitely some kind of energy there.
The resort is a popular destination during the holiday season as they host Christmas brunch, mini markets, and galas in the manor house. While on the grounds, guests can go snowshoeing, ice fishing, tobogganing, and even enjoy a horse-drawn winter sleigh ride. This is when guests have witnessed spirits on the lake.
As you know, you've heard of ghost ships, I'm sure. And you've heard of, all of these interesting feelings you get by the water. And we know water, of course, is a great conductor of energy. So the Briars has this beautiful waterfront. And it's magnificent any time of the year. But people often report that they see what looks like a phantom boat. They also see people that are skating. This is in the winter. They see people skating on the lake at the waterfront, and there's nobody there.
Linda said people have seen figure skaters on the lake clearly dressed in Victorian clothing.
And you can imagine way back when the water was completely frozen, there must have been a lot of people at the Briars that would come and skate. And of course, people report them in Victorian skating gear. So they have the muffs and they have the big, beautiful hats with the big fur collars. It's the most incredible thing. I mean, I when I get these reports, I think, well, that's it. I've got to spend Christmas at the Briars because I've got to see the phantom skaters at the waterfront.
At the carriage house, which once held horses and carriages, guests have seen a phantom caretaker standing near the entrance. They've also smelled horses that aren't there and seen old vehicles that no longer exist. Guests have also reported hearing banging noises. While walking by, they've also seen a light emanating from inside the large closed doors. In 2002, one employee reported seeing a large purple orb of light directly in front of the carriage house in broad daylight. Linda said that, like much of the property, the grounds are also a magnet for paranormal activity.
People report that they've actually seen ghostly apparitions of horse-drawn carriages in front of the Briars. And at Christmas time, for some reason, maybe it's just the atmosphere, maybe it's because there's so many memories there of so many wonderful, amazing times during the festive season. Maybe that's it. But at Christmas time, we get so many reports of people saying, yes, I've seen ghostly carriages. They smell pine where there is no pine. So you'll be wandering the halls and all of a sudden it smells like a Christmas tree. And you think, well, that's weird. There's no Christmas tree around here. I'm in the middle of the hallway. So people do report that. They do also report hearing little children running around, and this is year round, but at Christmas time, they report it a lot more frequently than during the year.
As a paranormal investigator, Linda believes these are residual memories of children who once lived there, and they become more active at Christmas, even though there are reports of ghosts year round.
But at Christmas time, I just think because it's decorated, and it's almost as if you're reliving all of those experiences of way back when. I mean, there is a theory that I think it was brought to light by somebody called John Sable. And he talks about ghost excavation, right? And how you can actually excavate or bring forth and unearth ghostly experiences by recreating what it was like way back when. And I always thought that that was interesting. And I always really believed that because, we talk about trigger objects, right? As an investigator. So, a trigger object might actually, not force a ghost to come out of hiding, but at least coerce them, maybe taunt them a little bit, and they might actually come out and play. So I think when you're talking about Christmas time and in a place like the Briars, when, you've got Christmas happening, you've got all of these incredible decorations, a lot of the decorations are old as well. So they're indicative of the time that the Briars was sort of most popular and most attended. I think you can excavate a few ghostly apparitions. And I think the coach house and the coaches and the horses and all of that is a great big part of that. And I do think that that's probably why they're mostly reported at Christmas time.
The Briars Resort is a popular destination for rest and relaxation at any time. But Linda says there is a different energy there at Christmas time. She found it hard to describe, but said the resort feels almost magical at a time of year that is not only celebrated, but also sacred. Thank you for listening, and a special thanks to Linda Carino, the founder and director of the Georgina Paranormal Society, for talking with me for this episode. Haunted Canada is sponsored by the Edmonton Ghost Tours. I will link it in the show notes. Haunted Canada is written and produced by me, Nadine Bailey, with senior producer, Dila Velasquez. Production and sound design is by Rob Johnston. If you would like to support this podcast, please follow and share. And if you can give us a like and a 5-star written review, that is always appreciated. Also, you can follow me on our different social media platforms like TikTok and YouTube. And if you have a ghost story, haunting, or true crime that you would like for us to cover on this podcast, please email us through the website hauntedcanada.com. And I would like to say a big thank you to everyone who has sent me emails letting me know how much you're enjoying this podcast, and for sending me your own ghost stories, hauntings, and true crime to cover on this podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you from all of us at Haunted Canada and Curious Cast. Have a good night, everyone, and stay haunted.